Greetings to all. A warm welcome in this Advent season. Dear sisters and brothers, dear friends. Advent in week 1. We are now Friday. This is your Pastor Yeti. The Wise and Foolish Girls. Matthew 25, verses 1 to 13. Then continued Jesus, "The kingdom of heaven will be like 10 girls, who each took their own torches and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were silly, and 5 were sensible. The silly ones took their torches but didn't take oil with them. The sensible ones took oil in flax along with their torches. The bridegroom took his time coming, and they all nodded off and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, a shout went up, 'Here's the bridegroom! Come on and meet him!' Then all the girls got up and trimmed the wicks of their torches. The silly ones said to the sensible ones, 'Give us some of your oil. Our torches are going out.' But the sensible ones answered, 'No. If we do that, there won't be enough for all of us together. You'd better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves.' So off they went to buy oil. But while they were gone, the bridegroom arrived. The ones who were ready went in with him to the wedding party, and the door was shut. Later on, the other girls came back. 'Master, Master,' they said, 'open the door for us.' 'I'm telling you the truth,' he said. 'I don't know you. So keep awake. You don't know the day or the hour.'" Every culture has its own way of celebrating a wedding and its own risks of getting things wrong. There was a family where people were so afraid of a car breaking down on the way to church that they hired a second one to drive behind the first, empty, just in case. But in different cultures, the risk will be different. There are all sorts of traditional customs for what is, after all, one of the most important transitional moments in human life. When two people leave the security of their respective families and publicly declare that they are going to begin the life as a new, different family. In the Middle East, to this day, there are some places where the customs at a wedding are quite similar to the ones described here. In the modern West, people don't normally get married in the middle of the night. But in that culture, torchlight processions late in the evening are certainly known, and it seems as though the proceedings might have severely stages, with the bridegroom likely to be delayed at an earlier venue before he arrives for the banquet itself, to be greeted at last by the bridesmaids. So much for the local color of this story, which other might be confusing for people used to other customs. What else is going on here? What does this parable add to the warning Jesus has already given about the need to be ready. Even more obviously than the previous one, this story is rooted in the Jewish tradition of contrasting wisdom and folly, being sensible or being silly. The writer of Proverbs treats wisdom and folly as two women and describes them calling out to men going by and offering them their respective lifestyles. Now, in this story, Lady Wisdom and Mistress Folly have each become 5 young girls, and the story invites its hearers to decide which they'd rather be. Obviously, wisdom in this case means being ready with the oil for the lamp, and folly means not thinking about it until it's too late. It's probably wrong to try to guess what the oil in the story stands for. Some have suggested that it means good works, others faith, or love, or almost any of the Christian virtues. It isn't that kind of story. Within the world of the story itself, it simply means being ready for the key moment. You can't squash all these parables together and make the details fit with each other. All the girls in this parable, including the wise ones, go to sleep in verse 5, whereas in verse 13 Jesus tells his followers to stay awake. Again, that kind of detailed question misses the point. What matters is being ready, being watchful, being wise, thinking ahead, realizing that a crisis is coming sooner or later, and that if you don't make preparations now and keep them in good shape in the meantime, you'll wish you had. There's one other aspect to this particular story which has roots deep in the Jewish context and has given rise to a tradition of hymn writing about the coming of the bridegroom. Already in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus has referred to himself as the bridegroom, chapter 9:15. In the previous parable, Jesus spoke of the kingdom as being like a king making a marriage feast for his son, chapter 22, verse 2. Mention of a bridegroom hints again at Jesus' messiahship. This highlights the fact the parable isn't just about the very end of time, the great and terrible day for which the world and the church still wait. And throughout this ministry, Jesus was coming as Messiah to his people, Israel. They were the ones invited to the wedding feast. They, in this story, are divided between the wise, who know Jesus has made sure they keep alert for his coming, and the foolish, to whom at the end Jesus will say, I don't know you. It is tempting to move away from this conclusion, because saying that parts of Jesus' teaching related particularly to a unique situation in his own time might make it look as though they are irrelevant for every other time. But that's not so. It is because what Jesus did was unique and decisive, changing forever the way the world is and how God relates to it, that we have entered a new era in which his sovereign rule is to be brought to bear on the world. And in this new era, no less than in the unique time of Jesus and his first followers. We need as much as ever the warning that it's easy to go slack on the job, to stop paying attention to God's work and its demands, to be unprepared when the moment suddenly arrives. Here are my reflections questions for you. What, in practice, might being ready for you involve in your life and in the life of your church? Don't go slack in the job. Don't stop paying attention to God's work and its demands. Be prepared when the moment suddenly arises. Embrace the warmth of Jesus' love in this Advent season, the warmth of his insight, giving wisdom to you. Enclose it deep in your soul. And every thought that comes to you, use it wise as you walk your path with him. Warm Advent blessings. This is your Pastor Yeti.